So let's start off with the enemy. This here is the enemy, right? The digital, the iPhone that takes pictures. What do you think?
I take millions of them.
You do?
Yeah.
I thought you hated them.
I don't hate them. It's just not photography. I use them all the time. I have so many. You'd be amazed if you see how many I did last month alone. But it's not photography.
Why?
It's something else. It's taking pictures.
It's taking pictures, yeah. Is it because you can manipulate the pictures, because you can add...
The picture doesn't exist, it's not there, they'll be lost. Everything you take, you buy your new iPhone, there's going to be some new software. In 10 years, your kids will not own a single picture of their childhood.
But this is the Polaroid of today, isn't it? You know, instant pictures. Right.
It is, and you can send it to 1 million people, to 1 million friends, realizing you don't have a single one friend.
There's even a setting on these, the Polaroid setting. You can take a Polaroid style picture.
And now I have that app as well.
But it's not the same thing as taking.
It is a little absurd to reinvent something virtually that had such value and was so special, and was actually so social. It was such a social thing, the Polaroid.
Why?
Because you could actually share it. And I mean, I have a few of them left, a couple of thousand, but 10,000 probably were given away because you took a Polaroid, especially when the X670 came up, and people wanted it. You took somebody's pictures and you couldn't keep it. You had to take two.
It was an instant gift.
Yeah.
And you watched it all develop together, didn't you?
Yeah, you looked at it together, you hold it in your hand. It was unique. It was a unique little object. And that is coming back in a big way. Kids love the fact that it exists.
Do you use the Polaroid camera today?
Not anymore.
Why not?
But since yesterday again, I was given one yesterday. I'm a photographer, half my life is I'm a photographer. I became a serious photographer in the 80s. I used large negatives and big horizontal panorama cameras. So that's a different ball game. The Polaroid was the last outburst of ingenuity of the analog age, and that is of course gone now. So you can recreate the feeling, but it's still not the same.
And you take more photographs now than you make movies? Do you make any? Have you finished with the movie making? You made one last film.
No, I make either or. I make a movie and then I don't take pictures, except on my iPhone because it's always useful. I mean, for the iPhone, you have great applications. For instance, you can actually, there's apps you can actually use the lenses that you have on your film camera or on your digital camera, the identical lenses and focal lengths, and you can show your photographer exactly the frame.
What you want. Yes.
Exactly the frame, and when you're on location, you can actually take the pictures that your camera will see later. So it's useful.
And you've said that photography is your salvation. What do you mean by that?
Because I really wanted to be a painter. See? And
you wanted to be a painter?
I'm a failed painter, and then I became a filmmaker, and photography allowed me to still keep the painter in me alive.
Because it's the fixed image.
It's the frame,
framing.
It's the colors, it's everything about a photography. Polaroids weren't quite like that. Polaroids were too innocent and playful and a little reckless, and you took them without thinking much, and actually you couldn't really frame it. You were sticking the camera in that direction, but it wasn't really serious, and I liked it about it. It was so playful.
You said that you've given thousands of your Polaroid pictures away, presumably to people who you took them of. Yeah. But there are a lot of pictures in this exhibition of just landscapes, empty of people. Yes.
The landscapes didn't ask me to hand them over. People did. And that's another reason why there's not many people here, because most people they felt they had a right to it. And I sort of agreed.
So you went to Montana, right? When you first went to America, is that right? Am I right in thinking this? That you went to that metropolis of modern culture, Butte, Montana, mining town.
Well, that was because I was preparing a movie about Dashiell Hammett.
Yeah.
I was actually in San Francisco, And Dashiell Hammett's fabulous, unbelievable first novel, Red Harvest, took place in Butte, Montana. It's the most amazing detective story. It's the first modern detective story. And I went to that place that in the novel is called Poisonville, and realized that's what it is. It is Poisonville. It's got the biggest polluted, poisonous lake that mankind has ever created in the middle of it. It's red. It's a red lake because it's so poisonous you can't put your toe in because it would immediately fall off.
But there was something that fascinated you, as it did lots of West Germans, about America, the American road trip.
Yep. I loved traveling in America. I loved shooting road movies. I mean, for a whole decade I did do nothing else than shooting movies on the road because I felt that was the ideal way of existence and of working, and it was all wrapped into one, and you can be so free and travel and make a movie at the same time. So, and the American landscape for me was a great temptation because I grew up in a destroyed country. 45, Germany was flat. My city of Düsseldorf, 90% destroyed. And the first great landscapes and great cities, unbelievable places I saw was in movies, in Western mainly, or in magazines, New York. My city was flat. The only thing that stuck out was chimneys.
Right.
Not skyscrapers.
And if you were growing up in Germany today, if you were a young Wim Wenders growing up in Germany today, would you have the same romantic attachment to America, to today's America, to the America of Trump?
I don't think so.
Why not?
I guess I'd avoid it. Well, the American dream was such a myth as well. It was created by cinema.
The American dream, yeah.
Yeah, and I lived in America altogether for 16 years. And if you come to terms with the American dream, and if you saw also the nightmare aspects of it, I think I overcame that addiction to America slowly.
And has Trump helped you to overcome that addiction to America even more, or perhaps the opposite? How do you feel about America today?
I do like my friend Paul Auster. I don't call his name. I call him Mr. 45.
Mr. 45.
Yeah, he's the 45th president. I hate his name just as much as I hate what he stands for. So I don't even call his name anymore. I waste my time calling him number 45. Longing for 46, except if it's Pence, then we just better jump right away to 47.
Have you been back to America since 45th election?
You know, I did not.
You refused to go?
I did not. I went straight to Canada. The few times I was on the North Atlantic. Well, I have lots of friends there, and I shouldn't abandon them, but something in me doesn't really want to go there. And well, maybe eventually I will visit some friends, but I tell them first not to mention number 45. It's impossible. You can't talk to any Americans without them exploding with disgust, and I'm getting so tired of it.
But for a German growing up in the 60s, I mean, I grew up in Germany in the 70s. America was the sort of land of dreams.
Yeah, I even made a movie called Land of Plenty.
Yes.
It was the land of plenty.
And now?
And the American ideas, I mean, as a kid born in 45, the American ideas were glorious ideas. The ideas of freedom and liberty. And after all, they invested in many lives to have Germany cleaned of that pest that we're living in.
Do those ideas still hold any relevance to you today?
I think they're more valid than ever. As they're trampled right now, I think they're more relevant than ever. And even conservative people like McCain or even President Bush, who I thought did a pretty lousy job, they all look like great Democrats now and standing up for their own ideals. And only number 45 steps on them with his feet. So I think the ideas of America are still pretty fantastic.
But a lot of the pictures that you've taken are of these desolate towns, in the middle of America, which is where the supporters of Trump come from. That's where they live. They feel as left behind as the images that you take. Desolation, utter despair.
You have a point there. There is something desperate and abandoned in that core center of America.
But you captured that in your pictures. I mean, it's really poignant. I mean, over and over again, these pictures of emptiness, of desolation, of hopelessness.
Well, yeah, I like things that are disappearing. I hope this thing that we're talking about now is going to be disappearing soon as well.
We have to talk about Harvey Weinstein. Can you imagine how the Weinstein phenomenon happened?
I have to tell you that story. That was 4 years ago. I was sitting in a restaurant in Cannes. It was during the festival. I was there. But in comes Harvey Weinstein. So when he sees me, and he comes towards me and shouts, "Wim!" And I was flabbergasted because I'd never spoken to him. And the whole restaurant looks at me like, what is this? Are they friends? Mm-hmm. And he embraces me and says, "I never said thank you, because without you, I wouldn't have had my whole career."
What?
And I was shocked. And then he said, "Yes."
Is that true?
"Remember, Sex, Lies and Videotapes was my first movie as distributor, and you gave it the Golden Palm." I was the head of the jury, and our jury thought it was the greatest movie. So it was a first-time filmmaker, Steven Soderbergh, and we gave him the Golden Palm, not knowing we were somehow responsible for the birth of a career of a certain Harvey Weinstein. Little did I know that 20 years later, this guy was going to come up to me and say thanks in front of public, and I felt like, where's the corner I can disappear in?
Even at the time, before the scandal.
Oh yeah, yeah, he was the scum of the earth in my book.
Scum of the earth.
For some reason, I did help his career. Shame on me.
You're the president of the European Film Federation, is that right? The Film Institute?
European Film Academy. It's like the American Academy for almost 50 European countries in the widest possible sense. We include in our idea of Europe, Israel and Palestine, both.
Will you still include in your idea of Europe Britain after Brexit?
Oh yes, absolutely. English film history is fabulous. British, I mean, some great filmmakers that are long-time members and friends, and of course, I mean, English is not going to drop out of Europe. We need them, but unfortunately they're dropping out of the Union, and that's bad enough, but we'll cherish our English filmmakers.
When you look at the future of Europe as it stands today, we've got right-wing populism in all sorts of countries, even in Germany with the AfD, although it's not as serious as in other places. Where do you see the future of the continent that you cherish, that you live in?
Yep, it'll take a big act to remove that new idea of nationalism again. I don't even know where it came from, because Europe was the most peaceful continent after a history full of wars and conflicts. And out of a sudden, people want their borders back. And they have these ideas of nations and keep their own nation clean of foreigners. I mean, it's horrifying ideas. I don't even know when that started. And the fact that it's back now, and we see it, we're surrounded in Germany by Hungary, Austria now, God, Poland, Holland is, I mean, all of a sudden there is this nationalism everywhere again, and it's it's going 2, 3, 4 steps back in history. As
someone who grew up in the rubble of West Germany, that must depress you.
For me, Europe was the greatest idea, and still is. It was the greatest hope. And now seeing it being people turning their back to it and wanting other ideas back that date back to the 19th century, it's insane. I don't know what got into people. I don't know what got into people in England. I think they were pretty misinformed when they voted for their Brexit. I think they were sadly misled.
So you're not a fan of Brexit?
No. How could I? How could I? And even people who voted it slowly realize it's not for their goods. I'm not a fan of it mostly because it steals the future from a whole young generation. It steals their future. And a lot of old folks voted to take their future away. Sorry. That's the way I saw it.
Wim Wenders, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Interesting.